Hello, fornicators. So I have every pocket PC phone that is on sale at Sprint.com. Treo 800W, the HTC Touch, and the HTC Mogul. These are three completely different phones. So people are going to want one phone more than the other for its specific features. Like if you're a big text messenger, you might want the Treo 800W because of its keyboard. It's a little more compact than the Mogul, but it's right there. It's no cumbersome flipping out of the phone. You can use one hand to reply and send text messages as well as emails. It's a zippy performance. It's quicker than the Mogul. Has more program memory. It's not the most stable version of Windows that Palm has released, but I'm sure there are going to be upgrades. The big downfall for this phone is its battery. Now, if you're not going to be by a charging source, the battery will not last you more than, well, it didn't last me more than 6 hours, and I didn't make more than two phone calls that lasted about 4 minutes apiece. But that's because I had a constant connection to the internet. Even though I wasn't using it, I just like to get my emails as soon as they come in. And I had my Bluetooth headset in, and it lasted me less than 6 hours. And I kept getting reminders that the battery was low. Next, if you're a big text messenger, you might want to look into the Mogul. The battery isn't great on this, but it's better than the Treo. The keyboard is bigger than the Treos, but like I said, it's harder to pull out than the Treos. The Treos is just right there. So for replies to text messaging and emails, the Treo is easier. But if you're sending if you're doing like some editing on maybe a Word document, you might want to go with something like this because it is easier to do long messages and stuff like that. And the screen is brighter, so it's easier to use outside. The Treos is a little dim. The Touch has a bright screen, but that's important because you have to get used to using the screen, especially if you're going to be using text messaging. If you're big on texting, you might not want to get used to using the on-screen keyboard, even though they do make it a little bit bigger than the other on-screen keyboards on the other phones, but that's because that's your only keyboard. It's no hardware keyboard that you can use. So if you're big on texting, this might not be the phone for you. Next is multimedia for the person who listens to music and watches videos on their phone. None of the phones has a standard 3.5 millimeter head jack, so that kind of sucks. They have the micro USB port, and these two have the mini USB port, and the headphones that come with it suck. So you might want to look into upgrading, and you don't want to go with the port. I don't prefer to use the port. I like to use Bluetooth headset. It's actually stereo Bluetooth headset. It connects to both ears, so when you have just one end, you could just kind of drown out and listen to music while you're talking to people. Or I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas to get fired from their job. So let's go to video. The screen on the Treo 800W is a higher definition, but it's a lot dimmer than the other screens, and the colors don't pop like the Mogul and the Touch. So between these two, I would go with the Touch, even though it's a slightly smaller screen, because it's all screen. It's shiny. It's kind of dirty now because I've been having my finger on it. It's shiny. It just looks nice. I was using it all day yesterday to watch YouTube videos on here. I have a little program, not the standard one. The sound on this program is better than the built-in YouTube player, which kind of sucks. You can't hear it because it's playing through my headset. But is better. The video quality is better. It's not that bullshit that you get with the built-in YouTube player. So it's the program is called YouTube Play. I'm gonna put up a link to it on my website. Uh, doesn't have anything to do with the review. I'm just saying it's a good program. As far as somebody who likes to play a lot of games on your phone, something with easy to use controls is something like the Treo 800W. Look at that big spacious navigation key. All these big buttons that you could program as, you know, like if you were playing with the emulator. But the screen is not desirable. All games that I played on here had an emulator, and it just takes it across by 240 pixels, and it's a lot of the screen is not taken up, and a lot of programs it just won't run on this. So while the controls are better for playing a game, it's not the best screen to do that. Next is the Mogul. It's a little harder to play games like that on here, but it's possible. You have the direction pad, and you have the little soft keys, as well as these keys that you can program while playing something like an emulator. Certain emulators you can turn on the side and play it like that, but you can't double press buttons. So if you're playing a game where you have to press two buttons at the same time, you cannot do that. I think it's kind of stupid, but you can't do it. Next is the Touch. You can play games on here, games like Tetris, Stack 'em, other games where you're just using this keyboard, or some games like Solitaire, where you're using the screen. But nothing, I wouldn't advise getting this if you plan on using like some kind of an emulator, because you can't program A and B buttons. And if you've got a Super Nintendo emulator, you can't program all of those buttons. Same with Sega Genesis. So I got some good games on here. I got some recommendations for you. Let's see, Miss Pac-Man. There's a bunch of games you can play, but you just can't do emulators and stuff like that. You're not gonna be able to play Mario or anything like that. So as far as games, there are a lot of options, but just not as many as if you were playing with something like the Mogul. Unless you have something like this. This is a little addition. It's for Pocket PC phones. I think it works for Nokias, but I got it for my Pocket PC. And you can play ROMs, stuff like this. You can program these buttons as hard buttons for video games. As far as internet goes, they all have EVDO Rev A, so it's about the same speed. The Touch, I'm not sure if the previous ROM had EVDO Rev A, but I know the 6.1 upgrade does have it, as well as GPS and all that. So as far as that, they're pretty much even. They all have Wi-Fi with the exception of the Touch. But this does have more options when it comes to internet browsers. You get a free Opera browser built into it. As far as like the fashionista, the person who wants a cute phone that's little and non-bulky, you might want to go with something like the Touch again, because it's the smallest of the phones. It's pretty zippy. It's functional. I like the look of the Treo. This is probably the Frankenstein of the bunch, but I really don't care what my phone looks like. I just want it to be functional and fast. And but as far as looks, probably the Touch would be more to your liking. As far as somebody who's always on the go and they need a very powerful battery, do not purchase the 800W. Between the Mogul and the Touch, I would go with the Touch, because the battery is not amazing, but they have an extended battery that will increase the length of the battery by over 80%, and it adds less than 3 millimeters in bulk. So by the time you add the extra battery, it'll be roughly the same thickness as the Mogul or the Treo. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any additional questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.